In the previous video, we saw that dictation is not just a spelling test. There are different types of dictation that you can use very effectively in your classroom so that you can teach language better. Some focus on listening, some focus on collaboration, and some focus on creativity. And some of these questions come in CTET as pedagogy questions. In this video, we are going to be looking at 8 types of dictation that every language teacher and every CTET aspirant should know about. Hi, I'm Dr. Swasti, and in this channel, we talk about classroom practices and the pedagogy behind CTET questions. Let's begin. Hi. This is the dictation which most of us are familiar with, where the teacher speaks, she reads out, the student will write it down, and then the teacher corrects the spellings. So traditional dictation helps in listening, it helps in spellings, writing spellings, it also helps a bit in writing that we write well. But if this is the only kind of dictation that you're going to be using in your class, then you're basically missing out on a lot of opportunities. Let's move on to the next kind of dictation. In pair dictation, students work in pairs, and one student will first read out the information, the other one will write it, and then they exchange roles. So the second one will read out and the first one will write. So the language skills which are getting enhanced are listening, writing, and for the other person who's reading it out, speaking. Also, it actively ensures that the students are less dependent on the teacher and they become more independent learners, and they also start actively listening to other role models, and real life listening skills are developed. In mutual dictation, again, students work in pairs, but here the information that the two students have is different. So one student will speak, the other will write, then the other student speaks and the first one writes, but they are not writing the same thing, and together they have to piece it together to make sense of the whole paragraph that they have been given. That's a very key point, please remember. We will see this when we are doing in another video the CTET questions which have been asked on mutual dictation. So mutual dictation becomes even more interactive and even more collaborative. In picture dictation, the teacher basically reads out a scene or reads out what she is, describes a picture that she is looking, and the students will only listen to what the teacher is saying and then draw, not write, they will draw the scene being described. So this activity, you might think it's drawing, but it is not. It is comprehension. The children will have to understand what is it that the teacher is talking about. They have to understand it, build a picture in their mind, and then they have to be imaginative about it. So they'll have to put it down in whichever form they feel. And basically this dictation works beautifully because children enjoy this. They think of it more as a game rather than a language activity. Remember, language is not just a subject. Language is actually how you think. So this kind of dictation becomes excellent in students being able to comprehend what they are listening to. Now, running dictation is one of my favorite. In this, a text is put somewhere in the classroom, somewhere far away. One of the students, they are again working in pairs. So one of the students runs, reads a bit of the text, comes back and tells his partner, the other person writes it down. And then again runs back, reads the next part of the text. And this continues till the entire text is written. Now, if you notice carefully, the student who is running and reading and coming back is reading, is holding it in his memory, so comprehending, and comes back and speaks to the other student. The other student listens, the other student writes. So all the 4 language skills are being developed: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And that is the reason why CTET focuses a lot on this kind of activity. Running dictation questions are one of CTET's favorites. In composition dictation, similar to paragraph dictation, the teacher gives them key ideas, some prompts, and the students listen to it, and then they write short sentences or short paragraphs so that they can express what is it that the teacher has talked about. So the goal is not word-to-word accuracy. The goal is to be able to communicate better and think in longer frames like a paragraph or coming up with a bigger composition. So this is a more challenging version of dictation. In partial dictation, some words are kept missing or the teacher does not talk about it, and students have to fill this up. So what this develops is that In English, we have collocations, we have a syntax which has to be followed, there are certain semantic words which are needed. So students have to listen carefully and they develop this understanding of language structure, the sentence structure, and very similar to the cloze test that you have done. If you remember these fill in the blanks where the teacher would leave one word out blank. So this is a similar concept, but you have partial dictations where just by listening the student has to be able to figure out what is the next word or what is the word that fills into the blank. So this is called partial dictation. The Dictogloss is perhaps the most sophisticated form of dictation. Here the teacher reads out a passage, the students make notes. They are not writing word by word what the teacher is saying. Then together they come back to reconstructing what was said. Now the purpose is not word to word accuracy. The purpose is, are they able to construct very meaningfully and as accurately as possible what was told by the teacher. So this develops higher order thinking, it develops more collaboration, interactiveness, and students being able to understand, comprehend and extract from the passage that is read, usually a longer passage, what it is that the passage was talking about. Notice something interesting. Some of these activities use drawing, some use movement, some use discussion, some use collaboration, but all of them use listening as the starting point of something very important. And that is why dictation is a much richer activity than what most teachers presume it to be. Now that you know what the different types of dictation are, what you need to focus on is what language skills do they develop? Do they only focus on writing or are they focusing on listening, speaking, reading and writing also? And later on in the series, we are going to be talking about the questions based on dictation, which CTET has asked in the pedagogy section. Now that you like this video, do subscribe to my channel and share this video with a fellow teacher. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.